Salaam everyone. I am Sahar Mustafah, the author of The Beauty of Your Face. Thank you to the producers of Salaam App for inviting me to speak with you today. So let's get started. First question. What first inspired you to start writing, and when did you realize it was something you wanted to pursue seriously? Because I was such an avid reader, it was a natural complement to write. I'd been writing stories as a young girl, but didn't professionally pursue it until after I began teaching. I was composing short stories at that time and had a wonderful opportunity to meet Niobe Shihab Nye, the Palestinian American writer and educator, who put me in touch with Radius of Arab American writers. This was and still is an invaluable community. I was able to connect with other Arab and Palestinian writers who encouraged and uplifted my work. I wanted to write the stories about my lived experiences that were missing from my childhood and most of my young adult life. Next question. Do you have any particular routines or rituals when you write, like a favorite time of day or setting? Because I am a full-time high school teacher, I carve out time very early in the morning, typically around 4 or 4:30 a.m. I am at my creative best at the start of the day, before the responsibilities and obligations of teaching and family call me away from writing. Next question. You address themes of trauma, especially relating to violence against Muslim Americans. How do you approach writing about trauma and healing in a way that invites readers into complex experiences without overwhelming them? I think storytelling is one of the most natural and disarming ways of engaging others on subjects of trauma, especially for those who are outside of our immediate Muslim communities. Though I write fiction, I believe that my stories contain truths about human nature and our shared humanity. I'm very devoted to craft and telling a good story, which invites readers to enter and accompany my characters on their journey. By the end, I hope there is something universally understood, but most importantly, that readers have changed by way of engaging in a largely othered community. In terms of Muslim and Arab readers, I've received messages that my novel has made them feel seen for the first time in their lives. These are some of the most wonderful messages I've received since this book was published. I believe that this is accomplished through genuine characters and a realistic plot, and by simple truth-telling. Next question. Growing up in Chicago gave you a unique American experience. How does the cultural diversity or city life in Chicago feed into your voice as a writer, especially when portraying immigrant and second-generation experiences? I grew up on Chicago's South Side in a neighborhood of immigrant children, though largely still white. My parents enrolled me in Catholic school, and I was among only a few brown faces. The search for belonging was perpetual. I had close Mexican American friends as we shared that experience of being outsiders. We also witnessed the challenges of our parents trying to navigate a white world and its bureaucracies. Assimilation was very hard, as my own parents were very strict about preserving our heritage. My sisters and I were unlikely to participate in social activities, and they held us very close. As an adult, I look back and can understand how my parents were never really welcomed as Arabs or Muslims. The expectation, if not requirement, was that we become like them, white people. There was no acceptance of our ancestral stories. Next question. Is there a genre or style you haven't explored yet would love to try one day? I would love to write memoirs someday. I've done short personal essays, but hope to enter into a creative nonfiction sphere. Next question. Given the cinematic quality of your writing, have you considered adapting The Beauty of Your Face or other works for film or television? What would be essential to retain your stories if your stories move to a visual medium? My novel is actually open to adapting. I've had a few offers, but they were not a good fit. I'm interested in working with Arab and Muslim creators, as well as BIPOC women. I think most important to retain is the ever-present threat of anti-Islamic hate. I would not want any aspects of the hate crime that is featured in my story to be watered down or omitted. Next question. You're currently working on a multi-generational novel set in Palestine. How do you go about crafting stories that span generations? And are there specific stories or figures from your family history that inspire this work? Absolutely. I lived in the West Bank of Palestine for 5 years before the first Intifada in 1987. This absolutely informed my worldview and shaped who I am. I continually return to that setting in my work. Living in the diaspora has also influenced my main characters. Specifically, in the new novel that is currently on submission, I was inspired by the stories of my mother and mother-in-law who bore witness to the 1967 invasion of Israel. My mother's family managed to stay safe and keep their land. My mother-in-law, however, was forced to flee with her family to Jordan and eventually sought a new life in the States. Next question. When you're not writing, what are some of your favorite ways to spend your time? I really continue to enjoy reading and have recently returned to Tatriz, the Palestinian embroidery. I have also committed to volunteer work, literary magazines, and solidarity work in Chicago and for Gaza as the genocide continues. Next question. In your writing, faith is an anchoring theme for many characters. How do you approach the portrayal of faith, especially in a secular context, to connect with both Muslim and non-Muslim readers? The thing about faith for me is that it is a universal pursuit. The intricacies of religion make one's pursuit unique, as well as their origin stories. Ultimately, faith for me is connected to our daily lives, and in our daily lives are human relationships and choices and consequences, all of which are familiar to most readers. My Muslim readers experience a kind of mirror reflection, but still not exactly, as the Muslim experience is quite nuanced and complex. It's not a monolith. So I hope I can write towards that very nuanced and complex and very rich experience. Next question. As a writer exploring such specific themes, how do you envision your legacy and what impact do you hope to have on future Palestinian American writers or writers from underrepresented communities? In this moment, as the genocide rages on, I hope my legacy extends to every audience, particularly in this moment, when the genocide in Gaza has been normalized. I hope readers will expand their view of Palestinians and Muslims to a point of normalizing our humanity. As for future Palestinian American writers, I hope my career is enough evidence to prove our stories matter and that there's a place to tell it in the publishing industry. I am heartened by the recent National Book Award for Poetry won by Lina Khalaf and by a finalist of the National Book Award for Poetry, finalist Fadi Judah. It's an incredible affirmation for our young people and for every Palestinian voice. We are rising above the noise of violence and claiming our right to be heard. Thank you again for this space and for me to have a chance to talk with you about myself and my career. Thanks again, Salaam App.